It just did not go as I planned. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So I am so excited for today's video because we are doing something really fun. Right now I have these three books out, The Unhoneymooners, The Soulmate Equation, and Something Wilder, all by Christina Lauren. So what I did is I posted a poll on Instagram asking you guys which book I should read next. When I finish whatever book Instagram decides from Christina Lauren, these are the other books that are going to be in my poll. So I'm going to do a James Patterson poll. So my Instagram followers can decide which of the James Patterson books I read. And then for young adult, I have two books by Kathleen Glasgow. So that will be my next poll. For this video, we're gonna get one book from each author. I just posted the poll on Instagram, so I'll give it a few hours before the results are in. But as of right now, The Unhoneymooners is in the lead. Okay, you guys, so Instagram has spoken, and the book that you all chose for me to read is Something Wilder. I am honestly shocked at this because I feel like The Unhoneymooners is so popular that I was really expecting everybody to pick that one. It was such a close call though, but I did start this one. I think I'm about 50 or 60 pages in. Real quick though, let me show you guys this view. I am currently in Phoenix, Arizona for work, and I have this gorgeous view of downtown. The vibes that I'm getting so far from this book are very similar to Outer Banks if you've ever watched that show on Netflix, because it's definitely about treasure hunting, but instead of it being in the Carolinas, like by a bunch of water and beaches, it's in the desert in Moab, Utah. It's a second chance romance. I'm assuming there's Lily and Leo. Those are the two main characters. It is dual point of view, except for it is in third person, which is not my favorite. So far, what happened in the book is Lily and Leo were together 10 years ago, and then something happened. We're not quite sure what it was, but something really major happened that broke them up, and they haven't spoken in 10 years. So this sounds kind of similar to Love and Other Words. They hadn't spoken for 11 years in that book, and now 10 years later, Lily owns an adventure company in the Wild West where you can go on an adventure riding horses and camping and searching for treasure, and Leo ends up on one of her trips 10 years later. I'm realizing with this book that the setting is not my favorite. I feel like the desert and horses and adventure is not really my favorite kind of book, but the writing is so beautiful. I mean, just this quote that I came across on page 72. He'd loved Lily so deeply that it changed his biology. Standing here now, it seemed his love for her hadn't gone away. It had just been a vacuum sealed and stored. Oh my gosh, like, I just feel like there's something about Christina Lauren's writing that is just like poetry. It is so beautiful and so fun to read. It's been a few days since I have talked to you guys last, and I just finished filming a book recommendations video. You guys can see all of the books that I had in that video, but look at Miss Luna just hanging out here. You want to say hello to everybody? No, you just want to hang out? Okay, so I'm at a point in Something Wilder now where it's really picking up. I would say I'm about 3/4 of the way through the book, so I will probably finish this one today. And without giving away too many details, the two main characters now are together. Everybody else has kind of dwindled off and are doing their own thing, and the two main characters, Lily and Leo, are off on their own adventure now, and I feel like I like the book a lot more now that it's just focusing on the two of them instead of also including the side characters. This book is really cute. It's not my favorite one that I've ever read, but I do still enjoy it, and I feel like the only reason why I'm still enjoying it is just because Christina Lauren, they are just such good authors, and the way they write is just so incredible. And I just really, really love the way that they develop and write their characters. So I think that's why I am honestly still reading this book, because I feel like if it was any other authors that wrote this, I probably would have not finished it. I just remembered that before I finish this book, I need to put out my next poll on Instagram. Okay, the next two are both from the author Kathleen Glasgow, so now we just need to see what Instagram says. If my voice sounds weird right now, it is because I am so sick. Over these past few days, I have caught seriously the worst head cold that I think I've ever had. I went to the clinic and had them test me for COVID and strep throat because I seriously thought this was COVID. I was like, there's no way that this is not COVID with how bad my head hurt. Have you ever been in so much pain that you can't fall asleep at night? Like the pain is keeping you awake? That's how bad my head and my throat hurt the other night. And what's crazy is my boyfriend Eric feels perfectly fine. Like we live together and he feels perfectly fine this whole time that I've been so sick. And here I am just feeling like total crap. But with that said, I did finish Something Wilder, and I think I'm gonna wait until the end of this video to do a wrap up of all of the books that I read, and then I can rate them and compare them over the past few days. I'm sorry I did not vlog because I have just been so ill, but I did read, oh, where did it go? Oh, it's right behind me. I did read this book, You'd Be Home Now by Kathleen Glasgow, and this book did win on the Instagram poll, but you guys, this book was so good and this writer is so phenomenal that I literally cannot wait until I read another book to read this next one that I have by her. Like knowing that this book is sitting on my bookshelf in the office just waiting for me to read it, I can't read anything else. I am only thinking about this book because that is how good this one was. My camera died, so I'm sorry, I don't really know where I left off, but I'm definitely a mood reader, and right now I'm just not in the mood to read a thriller by anyone, and I feel like that helps me prevent burnout from reading so much, is to read books that you're actually in the mood to read. Like if you're not in the mood to read a thriller, don't force yourself to read that, because that leads to burnout and book slumps. And so after I read this book, You'd Be Home Now, I just want to read another one by the author so bad. But I'll tell you a little bit about this book before I do like the wrap up at the end of this video. So essentially this book is about Emery and how she sort of feels invisible in her family. Her family is super rich. They like own this mill that basically built this small town that they live in, but even though she has all of the money in the world, she is really sad and feels invisible to her family. She feels like her parents don't care about her, and they only care about her older siblings, which is Maddie. She describes Maddie as being like drop dead gorgeous and like the popular girl in school, and then Joey, her older brother, is a drug addict. The book mostly follows the relationship between Joey and Emery, and they are very close siblings, and the book is really about the repercussions of his addiction and how that affects the family as a whole. But it's also focused on Emery and how in high school she's trying to figure out who she is and find her own voice in the midst of the chaos in her life that surrounds her. This book was so incredibly eye-opening and just raw and real, and something that I have just never read before. Like I seriously highlighted so many different quotes throughout this book because that is just how good it was. I honestly think that anybody over the age of 14 could read this book, and even as an adult, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think anyone, literally anyone of any age over the age of 14 could love this book. With that said, I'm gonna have to start this book. Like I literally just cannot wait to read more by this author. Hey everyone, so it has been a few days, actually more than a few days, since I have picked up my camera and talked to you guys during this video. As you can tell, my voice is still not all the way back, and I had wanted to like vlog more and talk to you guys more through this book as I read it, but I completely lost my voice. It was gone, and obviously I cannot film and talk if I don't have a voice, so I feel kind of bad. This video, honestly, it just did not go as I planned, but that's okay. I'll probably redo the whole Instagram chooses the books that I read later on. But anyway, I do want to talk about the books that I did read in this video. So we'll start with Girl in Pieces. So this book is about Charlotte, and she is 17 years old, and let me just say that these two books, definitely filled with trauma. These books are really sad. They're not really feel-good books, even though they like really warmed my heart by the end. Like they have really good endings. So if you're not in the mood to read something that's kind of sad, then I would probably skip over these for now. But the writing is phenomenal and just very eye-opening stories. And let me just say that Charlotte, she has had probably one of the worst lives possible that you could have as a teenager. Like her father died, her mother was abusive, she was kicked out of her house, she was homeless. That's not really a spoiler to the book, but it's more of just a trigger warning like going into this book. So her coping mechanism for all of the god-awful things that happens to her in her life is self-harm. Honestly, I think it was really brave and so powerful of this author to write this book because it is not an easy topic to talk about, but it's something that people need to be aware of. If you're going to read this book, please, 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 please read the author's note at the end because it made me like tear up, and it just shows like how brave this author was to write this book. Also, not every book needs to be unicorns and sunshines and rainbows to be good. Sad girls deserve to have their stories told too. And I have never ever in my life wanted an epilogue to a story more than this one. This book honestly took my breath away, and I could cry just thinking about this character, not because she was real, but because there are so many like young people out there who are going through what this girl went through. I did give it 4.5 stars, and the only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is just because I liked this one even more. Like this book I gave 5 stars and I just absolutely loved it, and I liked it slightly, and I mean just barely, like slightly better than this one. So that's why I give this one 4.5 stars, and this book, You'd Be Home Now, 5 stars. I did talk a lot about this book earlier, so I think I'm just going to leave that as my review. But oh yeah, I did give you an age rating, so I think anyone over the age of 14 could read this book, and I would probably say anybody over the age of 16 could read this book. And because I love these books so much, I did pick up this book that is also by the same author, How to Make Friends with the Dark. I have not started reading this book yet, but I know that it's also a sad book, so I definitely want to take a minute away from the really depressing and sad books and read something more lighthearted and happy. But I am very excited to get into this one. This one does deal with grief. Okay, going to a completely different genre and back to the first book that I talked about in this video, which is Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. I did give this book, I think 3, maybe 3.5 stars, and it's not that it was bad, it just wasn't my favorite. I feel like the setting just wasn't really what I'm into. I did really like the love story that finally came together towards the end of this book, and I do really enjoy the way that Christina Lauren writes their characters. Like they write their male characters in a way that is so just pure and normal and non-toxic, which is not often that you see in books, like to represent just like a true healthy loving relationship. So I definitely think that was really cool. So yeah, this book was just a tad bit of a letdown for me, especially in comparison to Love in Other Words, which I gave 5 stars. That's still to this day one of my favorite books that I've ever read. Reading is subjective. What might not be my favorite book might be your absolutely favorite book ever, which is the awesome thing about reading. So these are the 3 books that I read in today's video. Thank you so much everybody for watching. I hope that you all are having a fabulous day, and I can't wait to see you until next time. Bye.